Mayday, mayday, we are losing altitude.
"239 people boarded a plane, and within hours, it vanished. No distress call, no confirmed crash, no clear explanation, and what investigators uncovered next made the situation even harder to understand, because the aircraft did not simply disappear. It turned, changed direction, and continued flying for hours. A commercial aircraft, tracked by multiple systems, simply changes course, and no one stops it." March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. A routine journey, a predictable route, 239 people on board, passengers with plans, conversations left unfinished, messages sent just before takeoff. One passenger sent a final message: "I will call you when I land." That call never happened. Another passenger was traveling to reunite with family. They were waiting at the airport. They kept checking the arrival screen. And then the flight disappeared. "Good night, Malaysian 370. That was the final transmission. Calm, controlled, routine. Nothing in that moment suggested urgency. Nothing suggested failure. And then silence. No warning. No emergency signal. Just absence. And from this moment forward, this case stops behaving like an accident. Welcome to the Archivist Files. I do not present stories. I examine patterns. And this case contains patterns that do not align with coincidence. So consider this carefully. In a world of radar coverage, satellite tracking, and layered aviation systems, how does a plane disappear and remain missing? Because what you are about to see is not random. It is structured, and structure implies control. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 was considered routine. That is where the problem begins. The aircraft was a Boeing 777, one of the most reliable long-haul aircraft ever built. It was designed with redundancy, backup systems, multiple layers of safety. From an engineering perspective, this aircraft was not fragile. The captain, Zahari Ahmad Shah, was experienced, over 18,000 flight hours. Highly trained, calm under pressure, no immediate signs of instability. The co-pilot was younger, but fully qualified. From an investigative standpoint, nothing here suggests risk. The aircraft itself had no critical faults reported. Maintenance logs were clean. Weather conditions were stable. No storms, no severe turbulence. Everything aligned. And when everything aligns, unexpected outcomes become harder to explain. The aircraft departs at 12:41 a.m. local time, climbs normally, reaches cruising altitude. Communication remains standard. Routine exchanges with air traffic control. No unusual behavior, no tension in the voice. Then comes the handoff. At 1:19 a.m., the aircraft prepares to transition between airspace zones. A routine process. Then the captain says, "Good night, Malaysian 370. A normal sentence. But in this case, it becomes the last confirmed moment of normal operation. 2 minutes later, the transponder stops transmitting. This is not a minor detail. A transponder does not simply fade out. It is either disabled or intentionally turned off. And when that happens, the aircraft becomes significantly harder to track. Then the aircraft disappears from civilian radar. Gone, but not completely, because military radar continues to detect something, and what it detects changes the entire direction of the investigation. The aircraft turns, not drifting, not descending, turning deliberately back across Malaysia. At this point, investigators stop asking what failed. They start asking, who acted? The turn is precise, measured, intentional. This is not a loss of control. This is control. The aircraft crosses back over land. No communication, no distress signal. Just silence. Then it continues along a path. That reduces detection. This detail matters, because this path suggests awareness, and awareness suggests intent. Then something else happens. Altitude changes. Climbing, descending, not smooth drift, not system failure. These are controlled inputs. Someone is still flying the aircraft, but here is where it becomes difficult. There is no explanation, no communication, no visible reason. Then the aircraft disappears again. And this time, there is no radar. At this point, most aircraft would be considered lost, but MH370 does not stop. Because satellites detect something. Small signals, handshake pings, minimal data exchanges between the aircraft and a satellite network. Not enough to show location, but enough to show activity. The aircraft is still active, still flying. A missing aircraft, flying for 7 hours, with no communication. Where is it going? Because direction matters. Fuel matters. Time matters. And when analysts reconstruct the data, they find something critical. 2 possible corridors, one north, one south. The northern path crosses populated regions. Radar coverage. No confirmation exists, which leaves one direction. South. To the Indian Ocean, one of the most remote environments on Earth. Minimal shipping traffic. No radar coverage. Extreme isolation. If you wanted to disappear, this is where you would go. And this is the moment where the case changes, because this is no longer a disappearance. This is a trajectory, a chosen direction.
Visual on the target, bearings unknown. I see it!
The search that followed became one of the largest in aviation history. Multiple countries, advanced equipment, extensive coordination. Hundreds of millions spent, searching areas defined by probability, not certainty. Debris was eventually discovered. Fragments confirmed to be from MH370. But debris answers only one question: where impact occurred. It does not explain behavior. And behavior is where this case becomes difficult. Investigators began analyzing patterns, system shutdown sequences, flight path reconstruction, timing intervals, because when evidence disappears, decisions remain. And then, a realization emerged, a critical realization. The sequence of system failures was not simultaneous. It was progressive. One system, then another, as if someone understood exactly how to disappear. This is not random failure. This is a process. And that realization changes everything. Now consider this carefully. To disable multiple systems in the correct sequence requires knowledge, requires intention, requires time. And this leads to the most uncomfortable question: who was in control? Theory 1. Pilot involvement. Some investigators believe the captain deliberately diverted the aircraft. He had the knowledge. He understood the systems. He knew the routes. But something does not align. No message. No explanation. No confirmed motive. Theory 2. External interference. A hijacking scenario.
MH370 disappearance confirmed. All staff report. Emergency protocols active. Standby.
But again, something does not align. No demands. No communication. That absence is significant because most hijackings have objectives. This does not. Theory 3. System failure leading to incapacitation. Loss of cabin pressure. Crew unconscious. Aircraft continues on autopilot. But again, the behavior does not match. The turn. The altitude changes. The route selection. These are controlled actions, which leads to a conclusion that investigators cannot fully confirm. Someone was directing the aircraft. 239 people disappeared, not immediately confirmed, not fully recovered, missing, and for their families, that distinction matters, because closure depends on answers.
Final call for flight SQ456 to Tokyo, gate 18.
One family waited at the airport for hours, then days. They kept checking updates, hoping for a signal. A call, anything, but nothing came. Years passed. Search operations slowed. Attention faded. But the question remained. What actually happened on that aircraft? Because this case does not conclude. It stops. And when something stops without explanation, it creates space. Space for doubt. Space for interpretation. And sometimes, space for uncomfortable possibilities. Because here is the question investigators rarely say directly. What if this was not simply an accident? What if it was allowed? Not caused, not random, but permitted. Because in a world this monitored, complete disappearance is rare, and rare events deserve deeper examination. So consider this carefully. If a modern aircraft can vanish without clear explanation, what does that say about the limits of control? And what does it say about the things we do not see? We still do not know exactly what happened to MH370, and maybe we are not meant to. If you were on that flight, would you expect to be found, or would you realize some paths are designed to end without answers? But this was not the only case where something disappeared and defied explanation. Stay with the Archivist files. I will see you in the next investigation.